So I'd walk up Fifth Avenue to my apartment on 54th Street, freezing cold, newspapers, trash blowing everywhere, people sleeping in the door jams and all that stuff. And then I'm just walking up Fifth Avenue, listening to her latest work, being the happiest man on the universe. And that's the beauty and the joy of being able to create with your friends.
All right.
We're live.
Howdy, everyone. Here we are, Green Room, RCM Green Room. Special guest today, Jimi Fitz in center seat, David Snelson Smith looking on, Fred Satterfield also looking on. Proud to have you here, Fitz. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, this is awesome. Freddie, David, great to see you. Thank you.
I've always referred to him as, I first met Fitz back in 1980, and we began this musical collaboration with a couple of other terrific musicians, Ron Fairchild, Peter T. Cummings. Fitz, why don't you go ahead and give us a little history of how we met and what actually ultimately brought you to Nashville to begin your recording career?
What a journey, Freddie. 44 years ago we met. I mean, think about that for a second, okay? First met you at the Carlton Theater in Minnesota when, in Green Bay, sorry.
Green Bay, that's right.
The Green Bay one. And I was producing a series for ABC Radio called Country Greats in Concert, and I was recording the Oak Ridge Boys concert at the Carlton Theater there in Green Bay, where I believe it was like 23 degrees below zero.
Oh man, it was cold.
One of the Oaks band members, Garland Kraft, dove into a pool that had no water into it. That will live on forever. Never forget that. Sorry, Garland, I had to bring that up, man. So I wanted to interview the band because it was there were new members of the band. Pete had just joined the band, Freddie had just joined the band, and Ronnie had just joined the band. And our late brothers, Skip Mitchell, Don Breland, were longtime members of the Oaks band. And then the three of you joined, and we just hit it off. I interviewed you. It was a fun session. It was a great night. We got a great concert. It was a very successful ABC radio special. I end up meeting you all up on the road somewhere. I forget where it was, to be honest with you. I've been on the road with you so many times. Yeah. Somewhere on the East Coast. And William Lee Golden of the Oak Ridge Boys invited me to ride down on the bus back home to Hendersonville, where he had just moved into his new home, Golden Era, that historic, beautiful mansion out in the country at the time. It's become a city now, but
yeah, that was out in the country.
That was out in the country, man.
It's on the historic register in Tennessee.
It was amazing. So Bill invited me out there. I had a great time. Hung out with you guys. You guys came out to visit, and we just became friends, and things naturally evolved. And I blame all of you, and I give all of you credit for the progression of my artistry. And we just all clicked. There was just some, Pete was an amazing music mentor to me and music brother to me. Many don't know the behind-the-scenes friendship that Cummings and I had for many years. He moved to New York. That's another story. So let me keep on the progression. My first song that I recorded as a demo, as a songwriter, was called A New Beginning. Okay? At the time, Pete had his little 4-track setup in Golden's basement under the kitchen in one of the bedrooms downstairs. And he, Skip Mitchell of the Oaks Band, and yours truly recorded the first demo of A New Beginning. That was the birth of my new beginning as an artist.
Didn't you take a Greyhound bus to Nashville?
Yes.
And we began recording your first album.
Middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm in my studio apartment, my 4th floor walk up on 54th Street, Midtown Manhattan, right up from the Warwick, between 5th and 6th, right down the street from Trump Tower, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And 3 o'clock in the morning, I am trying to be quiet because my girlfriend's trying to get some sleep. It's a studio apartment. I'm watching TV, this whatever cable show I'm watching, and I've got my new Casio keyboard that I had just gotten. It was a little Casio, which were great writing tools back in the day, right? Everybody wrote on their Casios. Had my headphones on, and all of a sudden, I'm looking at the room and watching TV. I've got headphones on, and I've got a keyboard, and I go, wow, who could have thought that in the 20th century man could live like this? Never having to deal with the outside world, I just turned the switch on my audio video. I don't have to go to the show. I've got my own special guests every evening. The streets are pounding to the beat of fear. Look around you. What is the meaning? New York was a tough town back in the day and still is. Who could have thought that in the 20th century man could be so bold? Cable, satellites, nuclear armaments, all bought and sold, audio, video. I went, took me about 10, 15 minutes to come up with the melody, the lyrics. It all came together just like that, right?
But
just
did you have any idea that it'd be so prophetic, though? I mean...
No, I didn't. I also thought that at the time, I thought it was a good timing because Sony had just come out with the Walkman, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had the Watchman, if you can remember. So I'm thinking, now this is a perfect song that I've got to get in front of Sony, audio, video, and that's what was starting to happen. But no, David, to answer your question, I never thought it happened so quickly. It was a spark that lit. I called Fred and Ron and Pete, and I said, man, I really came up with, and I sang it over the phone to you guys. And then Fairchild said, well, come on down. Fairchild was living in Hendersonville. He had a studio in his basement at his house. And he said, I got a great setup. Come on down and let's make some music. So as fate would have it, I did. I took a Greyhound bus with my acoustic guitar. It was the classic stereotypical going to Nashville to try to make it story, right? I go down there. We record audio video. Dewey Durow, who had just joined the Oaks Band at the time, came in, and we had one of the most magical sessions I've ever been involved in, with Dewey coming in, putting his taste on audio video and those dueling sax parts. And then you and I wrote a song, Freddie, called Fizzy's on Fire, that Dewey was on fire with that sax. And we did a few other songs, and we love Dewey, and we sent him our best. I haven't seen him in ages, and just nothing but incredible memories from that unique talent and special days with the Oak Ridge Boys.
The Sultan of Saxophone.
The Sultan of Saxophone, man. Mr. Class, Dewey. So I come down, we record audio video. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget Bill Kenner coming out there during those sessions. And a very big, well-known record producer in Nashville, Mark Wright, came out the day that we mixed audio video, and he said, that's a hit. I'll never forget it. I went, oh man, this is easy. I just got to come down here, write a few songs, record them, instantaneous hit, baby. So, make a long story short, we had an amazing session. We recorded several songs, several originals. I go back to New York with audio video under my arm, and I'm living in Midtown Manhattan. And at the time, I was making the rounds. You know, back then it was very easy to get access to the publishing companies, record companies. And I got a buzz started just with the song audio video, which was really fascinating. I ended up meeting a couple of guys who had an independent record label in New York. dance label. We ended up going to Green Street Studios in Soho, which you might know from Aerosmith and Run DMC's video Walk This Way. That was recorded, the video was recorded at Green Street there. We ended up doing a dance mix of audio video, a remix. We did a single mix, we did an extended mix. Jimmy Cruz, our DJ friend who used to be the DJ at a club in New York called Rooftop, which has what a history. That's another story. And so we end up putting this together. Make a long story short, it's released as an independent record in New York. The initial pressing was 10,000 copies. It immediately sold out.
And all of this music just flowed out of us. You would bring an idea. You might have your journal with you. You've got pretty much a skeleton of what you want to talk about. We would collaborate. Before you knew it, we had an album. It was amazing how that energy all worked together.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun, and it was a juxtaposition musically to what the three of us who were still touring with the Oak Ridge Boys all over the nation, playing A-list venues. Basically,
the boys were rocking back in the day, man.
we were, you know, we were rocking.
Yeah.
But we would take this time off of tour, and what our drive was to come to New York or get you down to Nashville,
right,
and continue this collaboration, which continued for many, many years. And as a result, this Alter Ego album is kind of an accumulation of some of the best of those collaborations.
Definitely.
Over a period of time.
And different locations as well, because
right.
Nashville, Hendersonville, LA, where I did a lot of the mixing and a certain sweetening as the years went on and updating a little bit.
Yeah.
New York, obviously, with Green Street and all the gigs that we did in New York, all the other new people that came into our four circle, people like Richie Kanata, who played many gigs with us, Billy Joel, sax player, who did New York State of Mind and still rock and roll to me and played those monster sax solos. Rico was amazing music brother. We had so much fun gigging with him. Johnny Balsamo, Momback, who was good buddies with Rico and really was heavily involved in the China Club in New York and all those great jams and memorable events.
Let's not forget our chief roadie, Leo Benil.
Heavy duty, heavy metal. Fee. You're going to be bigger than Yoko Ono. You're bigger than Yoko Ono.
Let me.
Now it's time for a new beginning. Tired of losing. Now I'm ready for living. Time to break the ties. Stop living the lies.
We're talking about the new album, Alter Ego. It's a newly released album. It's an album that has been germinating for years and years. Songs are written. Demos are cut. They're put on the shelf. Nothing happens to them.
Let me get back. I've got the Alter Ego CD in my hand. Just for a lark here over the next few minutes. Let's talk about the songs and which versions of these songs appear on the CD and give a little history. It starts out with A New Beginning, which you mentioned earlier was your very first song you ever wrote.
Right.
The version that's on here, explain a little bit how this version became part of this album.
Oh, gosh. One of my trips to Nashville, I think one of my next to last trips to Nashville, as a matter of fact. Yeah. We had a great session at Ron Fairchild's studio now he's not in his house anymore. He has a great studio in Hendersonville. If you remember back, and I'm not making this political, and this is not why I wrote it, but I do find it interesting that when Ronald Reagan became president, right around the time that you and I met, as a matter of fact, Fred, around 1980, right? His whole initiative for his administration was called A New Beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if that was subliminal with me. I don't know where that came from. I didn't internalize it as a political thing. I internalized it as, when I came up with the idea, it was about I was ready for a new beginning. Mm-hmm. Those lyrics were what I was feeling at the time. And so they were true. But I just find it interesting, certain connections at certain points in time, because a lot of people feel we do need a new beginning now, obviously.
So it was time to bring that one back to the forefront, and it being the first song you ever wrote, I thought was pretty apropos that it should kick off this album.
Sure.
And so we got a session together. We recorded 2 or 3 songs during that 3 or 4 day trip that you made to Nashville at Ron Fairchild's studio, and New Beginning was one of those tunes. I Wish Time Would Slow Down is number 2 on the CD.
I wish time would slow down. I feel myself running faster and faster into the ground. I wish time.
That was a part of the same session, I believe. You want to expound on that one?
Also part of the same writing evolution for me, Freddie. That was all part
Good
of
point, yeah.
Almost like a drop for me. I wrote that. That was another one that came to me. It was honest, just trying to tap into my own feelings and everything. And I was stream of consciousness. That song came together very quickly. And the version that's on Alter Ego, once again, I Wish Time Would Slow Down. The first time the song's ever been released. But I love what we did with it. I think your drums sound fat and sound amazing. Pete's guitar, and that when we stop everything and break it down, and that I'm seeing Paisley. It's such a psychedelic guitar treatment that Cummings put on it that I think really makes it special. So I love how it turned out.
Yeah, this song starts out as a pretty straight ahead rocker,
right?
And it's like what it's talking about. I wish time would slow down. It seems like our lives are so hectic, and it was written while you lived in New York, so it's that New York pace, which is twice the pace. If you're walking in New York, you're walking twice as fast as you walk anywhere else in the world. You are, and this particular version of this song, we decided, hey, let's make a juxtaposition when you come to the chorus, instead of still rocking away. It's almost like you dive into a deep end of a pool, and the whole thing opens up into this beautiful, almost like you said, Paisley, this psychedelic world of backward guitars and sitars, and it takes you on a real mind trip.
Well, it's almost like you're running really fast, and you ran into gelatin, and now you're. Right. That's you can't move as fast, but you're trying. But Yeah.
And then at the end of that chorus, which is normally always the fastest, biggest thing in a song, at the end of that chorus, it sucks right back into that fast pace for the next verse and the solos and that relief on this song. It is really a musical experience, I believe.
So that wasn't the way that this song was originally.
No, it was keep it going. What you hear at the beginning, it's just the same thing. I mean, I've performed that song many times at gigs, and never performed this version. I always perform just the rock and the high energy version. So no, that was a great arrangement, idea, and execution on that song.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine it different.
We were talking about this being a contender for the session, and it was, well, what can we do?
Right.
Is there a way, what possibly could we do to enhance this that isn't already there? And so we just took a left turn on it, really. And it suddenly was like, oh man, it truly was like creating art, right?
Definitely.
At that point, it became that inspirational. There are a number of these things that we took from earlier versions of the songs, either the recording of it or the overall tenure of it may have been dated, and we tried to bring it more to what's happening today. But one of the tunes, we just couldn't improve on what it was really, and that was the third song here, "Citizens of the Universe."
We are citizens of the universe, gazing at the mirrors of life. Every day
Now, this song was actually among your very first recordings in Nashville. You want to just bring us into that song a little bit?
Well, once again, Citizens was my writing batch with A New Beginning and I Wish Time Would Slow Down, which is why I love the order that we've put these on this album. Living in New York, there are thousands of faces in the city looking for answers to questions. You know, it was just trying to be, I did it as a unifying message. And we cut it at Ronnie's house. We had so much fun doing special effects. We rolled so much tape during that session for that song, with us doing all this gibberish chatter in the back and marching and citizens and shouting and all that stuff. And it was a good version. Put it on the shelf. Years went by. I'm doing some work at LAFX in Burbank, California. Very well-respected studio. A lot of hits have been cut there. And Bobby McFerrin's production company owned the studio. Great place to work. And there was a guy named Chandler, engineer, who I worked with, just he and I. And I went in, did those overdubs. I added some background, a little bit more background effects. I did some more vocals. I wanted to round it out a little bit more. And then we did a killer mix of that at LAFX, and then Fairchild mastered it. It sounded like $1 million. And we freshened it up and brought it up to date. So that's the history. That had its own that was part of the LAFX, me adding some other stuff deal, and that survived the cut. And I'm so thrilled. Now that's been out. I have released it. I have another version out there that I did out here in California in the Coachella Valley. That's released as a B-side to For What It's Worth. I did a single of Buffalo Springfield's For What It's Worth. Citizens is the B-side, but there's also a live version from my McCallum Theater show of a few years ago, a live in concert version that I released as well. But this version is the original tracks, and it's just revisiting it. It's funny and it's hard for me to be objective because these are our babies here. But like you said, David, it's hard to. Music is so powerful because if you're trying to do message music or trying to make music that you want to leave a little brain power for, sometimes that song might not be right for today for people to accept it and grasp what you're trying to say. But times change, the world changes, we all get older, evolve, and sometimes certain songs have more power today than they had in the past. And I find that with a lot of the stuff that we've done, and especially a lot of the stuff on this album. Which leads me, thought progression here, to the next song. Simply I Love You.
Speech is simply that I love you. You're so special to me.
That's like the one of two ballads on the album. I'm taking an American Airlines flight to Nashville to come and work with you guys and lock ourselves in the studio again. And a little aside, my most precious memories in life, forget about as a musician or creator, just as having fun with the boys and making music for all the right reasons. The four of us just had so much fun. It just brings a smile on my face just thinking about all the shenanigans and all the ribbing and back and forth and Fairchild's sense of humor and Pete's otherworldly humor and you and I trying to keep everybody on the path.
There's a lot of this in tap dancing.
And stuff. It's just great memories. So anyway, going to Nashville, I'm a very blessed man. I love my wife. My wife is a great songwriting partner, I might add, and a great artist in her own right. She doesn't take any credit for it, but she is. I've seen her, and she's been an amazing lyricist, and I have a couple of albums.
She is a force of nature.
Yeah, she is. So I'm going down to Nashville to have fun with you guys. I'm leaving my wife for a week, and I go, I've never written a song for Wendy, and I've never really written a love ballad for my wife. So I get on that plane, and I had one focus. I was going to write Wendy a song. I wrote pages on that plane. I come down to the studio, and I show Pete. He says, well, boy, this is a beautiful idea, but man, we got a lot of editing to do. I said, I know, man. It's like, I'm just emptying my heart for my wife. So there, so it was unbelievable. So Pete came up. I came up with the vocal verses, but Pete really put the icing on the cake because I think he came up with a great chorus. And his amazing guitar work in that. And it's very close to my heart hearing that song, not just because of Wendy. And she has said to me many times, she said, I can feel the love of Pete and Fred and Ronnie in that song with you. I said, it's true. I said, we worked so hard. They knew how important it was to me to write a song that would be worthy of my feelings for my beautiful wife. And you guys didn't shine it off. You came in and felt it and made it special. So I can't thank you enough for that. And it's important that you know that.
Right on, Fitz. That's very kind to say. And we were having a pretty magical set of sessions anyway, and it just but that's how we would come up with something, and the next thing you knew, somebody had something to add. Somebody said, no, that's not any good, and they'd go, well, show me something better, and then they did,
right?
And then the next thing you know, you're right, and we had a recipe, we baked it, came out a beautiful cake.
I'm gonna fight 'em off. A 7-nation army couldn't hold me back. They're gonna rip it off, taking their time right behind my back.
All right, so go down to the next song, 7-Nation Army.
I want to ask you about this because you brought this to the table. We were looking for something else. I mean, we were way ahead on what we wanted to accomplish for that week. And you said, well, I've got an idea. So kind of talk about why you wanted to do this great Jack White cover. And when so many people had covered this song, and what was your motivation there to say, hey, let's take a shot at this?
My motivation was the Oak Ridge Boys.
Okay, right.
The Oak Ridge Boys released 7-Nation Army.
That's true.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Ron Fairchild was a big impetus for cutting Seven Nation Army, because somehow we were in a conversation or whatever. And I don't know whether he said it or I might have said it in jest. I said, well, maybe we need to cut that song. Or Fairchild, you're not on the track, right? No. I said, but you're playing it now because you guys are, it was a release. So the Oaks would do it at some of their shows, right? So I said, man, I'm just feeling this. I like the song. That's really that's how simple the idea came up. But I have to credit the Oaks for putting it on the radar.
Oh, no kidding. I do remember they had that version, and we felt like your voice would just actually be perfect for that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a process. Okay, so we recorded it.
Right.
We thought it was one of the better things that we had done that week during the session. It was like, oh, wow, this really, somehow this came together. But there was a process to getting it released. You want to talk a little bit about that? Dealing with Jack White, their publishing.
Well, we just went ahead and got a license to do a video thing, but you don't really, to release covers, you don't really have to, unless you're using somebody's original track or whatever, you got to pay the songwriting.
Well, I remember there was some kind of process that they had to basically hear it in order to allow.
Oh yeah, that's right. They approved it.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. It wasn't like.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
right.
You jumped through some hoops to get this released.
I forgot that. That's been a while. Yeah. You're right. Thank you, Freddie.
Yeah, there was a
I said we'd be filling in the blanks for each other here. That's a good one.
Well, we had this, what we felt was a very inspirational version of this terrific, what had already been almost a cult anthem.
Mm-hmm.
And you found out, oh man, we've got to send our copy in. We've got to send our version in. It has to be approved by Jack White.
Mm-hmm.
In order to be released. Because I guess he had so many people doing this, and some of them maybe were less than what he expected for the song.
Of course. Right.
And so he had finally put his thumb on it, like, okay, I need to vet these versions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was my memory of that. And and when you got the approval to go ahead and release it, it was like, oh man, Jack White likes our version.
Right. Jack White approved of Seven Nation Army. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard something like that. I thought all you needed was to obtain a mechanical right, and then you pay whatever rate, the current rate. So he has some other kind of agreement that's
no, but I think there was talk, and I think that's how we evolved in that talk of doing a video to that.
Oh, okay.
Because Cummings and I were talking about that. I said, well, before we get too far down the creative path, because Freddie, through the years, we talk about something, and the next day we're in the studio shooting it or recording it, obviously. Yeah. So I said, well, let's. So I think that's how we started going down that path.
Yeah, that's a sync right. So
that's a good point. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly one of the things you always brought to our collaboration was the fact that we could create things all day long.
Right.
Getting it out to the world was maybe not one of our strong suits, but when you're talking Fitz, Jimi Fitz, Jim Fitzgerald, that whole cabal of people there wrapped up in that persona. You're going to do this today, and the next day he's going to tell you he's already got it on network. Or this is going to happen. This is in the works already.
There you go,
man. You guys,
all right.
Yeah. Here. So that was always one of the great things that you brought to that collaboration in amongst your artistry. It was your business acumen, and then your this natural promoter that you are.
White collar, don't you think it's time to look beyond the bottom line? White collar, never home to hear your children laugh or holler.
next is an interesting story. White collar.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Don't you think it's time to look beyond the bottom line? White collar. Never home to hear your children laugh or holler. White collar. Break away from the mold before you get too old. White collar. When you extend your hand, squeeze mine like a man. White collar.
White collar.
Now that was inspired, and I'm not going to say his name, by someone who you and I know, who I was doing business with, and wasn't happy with certain actions by this individual, who has since passed, God bless him, and I had many good times with him as well. But he inspired me. I have to totally blame him. And the initials are DH, and you can take your guess from there. But that was a gift. And what's really wild, and I'll share this with you. I sent this to a musician friend of mine, and she's got a long track record, and I don't want her to think I'm using her background to promote anything, so I'm not going to mention her name, but she's very well respected in this community. So I sent her White Collar, right? And she goes, wow. So as I'm sitting here listening to your lyrics and tracks, my brain is popping up images of Bertie Madoff, Jamie Dimon, Leonardo DiCaprio, and the Wolves of Wall Street. Yep. And then the hapless frontline customer service agents of Citibank who are stationed in Mumbai dealing with angry Americans while their CEOs are flying overhead in private jets. White Collar. Great song, Fitz.
Now,
that's feedback. That's not from me. That's from a friend.
No, that's terrific, and it's so apropos today. But that song was originally written right around 1980, 81 in some of your very first compositions.
Yeah.
And the track that appears on this album is a re-record. We decided to try it again on one of our journeys to New York to work with you. Mm-hmm. And we threw that on a session, said, hey, let's go play White Collar. And we did. And I think we actually topped the original track.
No doubt. No doubt.
And then you pulled this off the shelf a short while ago and remixed that in LA, did you not?
Yeah, at LAFX. Yep.
And that's the version that you see on Alter Ego.
Yep. Fairchild mastered it.
That song was written early 80s, and then you get a review, a total spot-on review of that song with what's happening today in the headlines.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. And I mean, audio videos the same way. Citizens of the universe. I wish time would slow down. These themes are timeless in the human condition. That's my point. And it just cracks me up how this continues to happen with this material.
I'm thrilled that we're getting it out and actually getting to be able to revisit and talk about it, Freddie. You know what I mean?
Oh, no. It is. It really is.
Kidnapped, turn the teletype on. I'll look you up when your day begins. We'll have a taste when it's won.
Kidnapped. Oh my gosh. I mean, Kidnapped. I've loved Kidnapped. I've performed that all over New York, up and down the East Coast. That song was always responded to. I always loved to perform the song. But I just got inspired. Now we cut that. That's the New York session track.
Right. And this was, I was about to say, it was on the same sessions. Once we did White Collar.
Right.
We went back in and we recorded this music. We just suddenly had an idea for some music. And once we had that track, we had just recorded White Collar, and it seemed like the White Collar vibe of the message of the song sort of just by osmosis kind of came into Kidnapped.
So many of those lyrics just came to me in the vocal booth.
Yeah.
doing a rough vocal, just trying to come up with the melody for the verses and stuff. And it just happened naturally and had such a power. And your drums in that, and Pete's guitar. I mean, just everything just gelled, right? So
Fairchild had some incredible keyboards.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
On that thing.
So I start working with a sax player in Orange County called Adrian Olmos. Adrian's special talent. Okay. I've done some gigs with him through the years, and the last gig I did with him was right when we all got shut down with COVID, and I haven't played with him since. But I contacted him because I just felt like I heard horns in Kidnapped. Okay, I just heard them. It was driving me crazy because I was hearing them and they're not on the track. Okay, I said, this has got I got to do like a Bobby Keys treatment of a sax on Kidnapped when it takes off, okay? Like a movie car chase kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
So I call Adrian. I said, man, we've been talking about doing something, I said, but you can't get out here because you're too busy. I can't get to the beach because I'm too busy. Let's do modern technology, and let me just send you the tracks and see if you can lay something down. I'll get it mixed, blah, 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 blah. Make a long story short, he sends it to me, and I go, oh, man, home run. He says, I'll change anything you want. I said, I don't want you to change a single thing, okay?
That's awesome. That's exactly what the musician wants to hear, too.
And I told him, I said, man, do you know who Bobby Keys is or was? You know, if you know he was Rolling Stones, we would go down the list. I said, you nailed exactly what I was hoping and what I envisioned. And how often does that not happen, Freddie? You know what I mean?
Well, what was wild is that you sent me that track to listen to.
Right.
And as I heard it, it reminded me of Bobby Keys.
Isn't that
fortunately,
bingo?
With my experience, I played in a group in Nashville, and Bobby Keys would be in our band when he wasn't touring with the Stones. So I became very familiar with Bobby and his whole style and the thing with that track. Originally, Fairchild had some synthesized horn parts on there.
Oh yeah.
But when you hear the saxophone, real saxophone now in with some of that stuff, it adds that reed sound that you really, it just makes the whole thing sound like a horn section. And then, of course, the solo parts were rocking.
Killer.
So it really did kind of add a nice topping to that dessert, so to speak.
Yeah, so thank you, Adrian. And the mix sounds great. And Ronnie did a great mastering job on everything. So that's a beautiful thing.
Do you remember, though, right as we were wrapping up the lyrics for that song, you and I were riding around Midtown in a cab, and we're still trying to come up with the rest of the song, put a ribbon on it. And we're quoting lines back and forth in this cab as we're looking out the windows, and we're seeing billboards with news feeds on it and different things, that teletype type things going on. And next thing you know, we almost finished the song in the cab, just wrapping that up, bouncing off.
That's living in New York, man.
Yeah, that kind of energy up there is amazing.
No doubt. No doubt.
Or it was, in our experience, during that time frame.
It was amazing, man. I'll never forget being able to, when we were recording there on 42nd Street at Lavsky's place there, and then putting my Walkman on, getting I'm famous at recording sessions for taking home a dub. Okay. Yeah. I probably owe you about 5 cases of cassettes. Okay. So put that on my bill too. All right. And make sure you have them in stock the next time I see you. Okay. Thank you very much. That used to always tick Fairchild off. Oh, we got to do a dub. I got to go home. I'm fried.
Yeah. I made him a dub at the front of the session. Now I got to do another one with these new things. Now I need another damn
dub. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd walk up 5th Avenue to my apartment on 54th Street. freezing cold, newspapers, trash blowing everywhere, people sleeping in the door jams and all that stuff. And then I'm just walking up Fifth Avenue, listening to our latest work, being the happiest man on the universe. Okay, that's the beauty and the joy of being able to create with your friends, you know. So the next one is a real interesting one, because this is a version of audio video that I'm so happy is finally out and released. Now, I'm going to take you back, because this version on Alter Ego is a combination of Fairchild's studio, the original track in Hendersonville, married with what we did of re-recording that song in New York. Okay.
Right. As a live version.
And then Eddie Saletti. Do you remember him?
Oh, yeah.
He was a great engineer. He lived at First and First down in the Bowery, back in the days when nobody went to First and First. Okay. And if you're a New Yorker, you know what I'm talking about. He had a small apartment set up with a great rig. And he came up with some parts that he added to that song. Then I took the audio from the world's largest indoor country music show that I produced for NBC, 1978. I co-emceed that with Dottie West and Kenny Rogers, right? And I would come out flogging Kenny's program, right? And I'm talking to 70,000 people. I said, man, I got to take advantage of this. And this is on YouTube, by the way. You should probably show this in this, because I think everybody get a kick out of it, okay?
I don't know how many thousands of people we have out here, but I'd like to hear the biggest Michigan roar that has ever been heard in the Silverdome. On the count of 3, all right? Ready? 1, 2, 3. It feels so good standing down here.
Okay. 70,000 people, Pontiac Silverdome. Well, I took the audio from that, and at the end of that, and there's a huge video screen that they're shooting me, and I'm looking up, and I go, dang, it feels so good standing down here, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the intro to the live version of audio video, which is a hybrid of the original track that we recorded in Hendersonville, the New York sessions, the Eddie Saletti taste added on top of it, and then me mixing it at LAFX in Burbank. So it's an amazing, and then to have that memory for me from the world's largest audio there. So it's a simulated live track, and we take you in and out of the live track. And I'm very proud of that production. Just the whole treatment we did on that. Your drums sound like $8 million. Everybody sounds great on it.
Deep in my dreams, princess of power, come lean from your tower and appear. And appear in my dreams. In my dreams.
Final cut. 9 songs on this release. This particular song has a special meaning for me because it is so. It's very different in its approach, and it began with Pete Cummings.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at Pete's house, and as I would do quite often during that time period, I would go over to his house, and he had a set of drums set up. I provided some drums, and he had some drums there, and we made this basically studio kit that was always ready, because Pete's life was music.
River
And
Road
his-
Studios.
River Road Studios, his entire front room was a recording studio. And I'm over there one night, and he has this song, and he plays it for me. I go, wow, that's amazing. He says, well, I want you to play drums on it, and let's work something out. So we cut this track, the beginnings, embryonic part of this track, and it was like, oh, this is special.
Mm-hmm.
And about that time, you came to Nashville for a go around with us. You heard it. You go, oh, Pete, man, this is cool. I really would like to do a version. While I'm here, can I just do a vocal just on this thing, just to have a version of it? We might want to use this at some point. Pete was going to release it on his solo album.
Yeah, I remember.
And so you put a vocal down. I mean, it's like a 1 or 2 take vocal. It was just spontaneous, and it was just, hey, let's do it. Now let's go have dinner type of thing. It winds up on the shelf. It sits there for years.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on this album, putting together Alter Ego. We pulled this out and listened to it. Give me your thoughts from that point on.
It's hard to describe. It's got a vibe it was meant to be, probably, but more than anything else, it's an amazing fantasy. Pete's lyrics really paint a very interesting dream picture, and conjures up a lot of different thoughts, emotions, memories. It's an interesting way to end the album, and I'm very proud of it. I'm grateful to Pete for having me be able to put it out. I wish he was still here to share the fun with us. We all miss him so much, obviously, and was such a major part of all of our lives in many different ways. But that's what true friendship is about, and that's the power of music, because it can always take you back to that time, Freddie. You know, you and I both get so much joy out of even going down memory lane together, and it's important to emphasize to people, especially young people who have bands and stuff. You know, being in a band and making music is a very special gift, and when it gels. And there are people who know what we're talking about, and there are those, unfortunately, that will never ever have a chance to be able to share that kind of a feeling. But a Princess of Power, it's a perfect way to end the album. It's Pete's song, and it's, I think, a great way for us to pay tribute to Pete. So I thank you and Ronnie for Ronnie did a great job of mastering it, and it just,
he did.
And once again, we cut that on a 4-track machine, man.
It was, I think it was actually an 8-track.
Was it 8-track?
Yeah,
okay.
and transferred over. But
right, we bounced
for the most part, everything that appears on that version was originally recorded. There were no overdubs, no sweetening. That's your original unedited vocal.
Right.
So what's on this? What's on the CD came from that recording?
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you talked about describing this song, Princess of Power, if you could listen to a Salvador Dali painting, this is what you would get. It is a trip. It is a fantasy trip.
It's a haunting
it is.
melody, you know?
It kind of feels like a video game, but then it feels like, I mean, so many things go through your mind while you're, fantasy is, I think, the best way of describing it.
Yeah.
Because it does feel like a fantasy. It feels like you're taken back in time, but to an alternate time. And I don't know how it does that.
The avatar there.
Well, that was my next thing. That is the creation of you two. I mean, the Jimi Fitz avatar for Alter Ego, which is what I use as my avatar for CryptoFitz now. Obviously, putting that out everywhere, and everybody loves it. And I tell them, well, my friends did that, man. And you know, when Wendy had a surprise birthday party for me, Fred, remember she blew it up?
Oh yeah.
You sent her whatever she needed to be able to do a big cardboard cutout. I still have that baby. I was going to bring it in for this today, and I said, no, maybe I won't do that.
Oh.
But I'll pop it up another time.
Okay.
You'll enjoy it. So, Freddie, explain to us now how the process worked for that avatar with the work process between you and David.
Well, we had this. I did a treatment. Fitz and I were involved in another album called Baby Bamboo, which David mentioned earlier. And so we were going to take the music for the album Baby Bamboo and develop it into an animated series. In order to do that, we needed a pitch package, and we also needed these characters designed for the animators. So I designed these characters and drew them. When we got ready to do Alter Ego, got to thinking about, well, what are we going to do for an album cover? And it may have been you, Fitz, said, hey, well, what about this? And you had the big cutout that I had sent you for your birthday party of the Fitz avatar from Baby Bamboo. And I thought, well, yeah, why not? I mean, so I pulled out the original artwork, line art that I did for that, but I wanted to update the graphics a little bit on it. Let's do a new color rendition of it. And so I brought David in on it, because David is a terrific digital painter. He eclipses me in that regard, and I lean to him for this type of thing. So together we came up with this version of the Fitz avatar, and it appeared on the CD, and then we also did the interior art design and graphics for the CD, and then the back part of the clamshell. So we had a complete package for you then. But Fitz, Wendy related to me one time in a conversation that when I was getting ready to put that big cutout together for the birthday party, she says, oh, Freddie, he's going to just love this. Do you know, he has that setting up on his piano, in the music tray on his piano, and he just stares at it. He loves that avatar.
Well, you know, it's interesting because keeping it tight is the game. You and David are an amazing team. You guys do such great graphic novel work and other stuff, other creative projects that you both do. I also want to add that David is also a fine artist as well, a painter.
Yes.
Multi-talented engineer. He's keeping up to date. He listens to that show CryptoFitz, so he knows a little bit about what's happening in the digital asset world.
Yeah, you got to keep up with that stuff. You have to.
Freddie, he's a multi-hyphenated guy from being all the art background and graphic novels that you've done, all the touring that you've done, the recording that you've done as the world-class drummer that you are, black belt karate man. Don't mess with Satterfield, okay? Don't mess with Satterfield.
It's been a very diverse and interesting life,
and as it continues to be. So now I want to thank you, gentlemen, for this. I want to remind everyone, if you're interested in hearing our album, you can pick it up at Amazon, iTunes, all the digital outlets have got it. And if anyone wants a hard copy of this album, happy to get it to you.
I wish time would slow down. I feel myself running faster and faster into the ground. I wish time would slow down.
So, David, tell me that you did press record on this.
Yeah, it looks like yes.
Okay? I just wanted confirmation on that.
It's like an hour and 45 minutes there, boys.
Let's see. We have
Don't leave me standing. Don't walk on by. Life's so demanding. Don't ask me why.
Oh, we're definitely going to cut this out.